Hi guys and welcome back to Sports Game HD and welcome back to a football discussion where today I'm going to talk about Roberto Di Matteo being sacked as the Chelsea manager and Rafa Benitez being installed as his replacement. I'm going to talk about what I think on it, my views, etc. and also give you guys some topics to discuss in the comments below and get a bit of a discussion going on what you think on it all. And first of all, though, we've got to discuss the facts, which are Roberto Di Matteo has been sacked as the Chelsea manager, of course, as I just said, and Rafa Benitez has been installed as his replacement. Now, as I understand it, this is just me regurgitating what I've heard from Sky Sports News, BBC News, etc., etc., what I've heard them reporting. And apparently, after the Juventus game, what is last night now for me, the 20th of November, the game against Juventus in Turin, where they lost 3-0, I think it was. And apparently after that game, Roman Abramovich was in a very bad mood anyway. Then the defeat just made his mood even worse. And Chelsea officials were reporting to the media that he was furious after that game. And that got back to the players. And they were told, with obviously the coaching staff, with Di Matteo, etc., that when they were to get back to Chelsea in the early hours of the morning, around 2 o'clock in the morning, they were to report to the Chelsea training ground because he wanted to see them or something like that. Or his person in command wanted to speak to them. So apparently the flight was delayed. Di Matteo spoke to his advisors because he knew he was going to get sacked. Apparently got back to Chelsea, and at the training ground about 5 o'clock he was gone. He was sacked about 5 o'clock and clearing his desk, saying his goodbyes, etc., etc. And then this evening, while I was watching the Manchester City Real Madrid game, or just before it, news broke that Rafa Benitez was the new manager of of Chelsea on a short-term basis, an interim manager until the end of the season. And now, again, as I understand it, Benitez was in the Middle East and was talking in like a seminar, and then after that jumped on a plane, flew over to England, and the deal was done. So that gives me an impression that Benitez knew that Di Matteo was going to get sacked, or if Di Matteo were to get sacked, he knew he was going to be the man to replace him, because you don't just drop all your plans just like that, book a flight magically and then jump on it and fly over to and get the job. That doesn't happen, not even in football. So that gives me the impression that Di Matteo, the writing was on the wall for quite a long time, and it was just sparked by a defeat that Roman Abramovich didn't like and was in a bad mood and just pulled the trigger. So that's the fact, really. But a couple more things that we got to bear in mind, though. That over the summer, Chelsea spent around £90 million on building a whole new squad, and not just personnel. Not just personnel, because they rebuilt the style of football that Chelsea play. The style of football that Roman Abramovich craves, the Barcelona style, the beautiful game. Not what they won the Champions League with last season, which was very defensive, very counter-attacking. That wasn't pretty on the eye, but it was effective, yes, but Roman Abramovich wants Barcelona-style football, Barcelona-esque. So Di Matteo has brought the players in and put the philosophy in to play that style of football. And honestly, all the football I've seen Chelsea play this year, they have to a larger extent done it. Played very nice football to watch. Lots of creative players in Mata, Oscar, and Eden Hazard, of course, etc. Those sorts of players. So he's built a whole new squad. Last season, he did deliver exactly what Roman Abramovich craves the most, which is the Champions League. He won it after a very bad situation he inherited from Villas-Boas. Although I personally still believe Villas-Boas would eventually have got it sort of right at Chelsea, but that's another matter. That's not what we're talking about. Di Matteo won it from a bad position. He won the Champions League against Bayern Munich in their home stadium. He managed to do that. So he managed to inspire the team to do that. So he did exactly what Abramovich wanted. So then he's been sacked after doing that. After they've been knocked out of the Champions League effectively. Now, I don't think it's official yet. I think it's basically more or less done. They're out of it. But realistically, they are currently third in the Premier League, just 4 points off the top of the table at the point where Di Matteo has been sacked. They are just 4 points off of Manchester City at the top of the title race. So they are still very, realistically, potentially going to win the title. That's still very doable. They are still in the Capital One Cup, so they can still win that. Obviously, they're still in the FA Cup because that's not started for them yet. So they could still win 3 trophies this season. Still very, very doable. Signed Rafa Benitez until the end of the season, so that's no longevity to their plans at all. So after spending in the summer to bring in young players with a long-term future, a long-term goal, with a young manager in Roberto Di Matteo, a long-term plan, because that's clearly what they've done. by bringing in lots of young players. They're now going to bring a manager in who's got no long-term aspirations with the club, realistically, unless he were to keep the job. So he's got no reason to buy young players. He can buy more older players if he wishes to. He's got no reason to buy young players and build for the future, etc. He's got to build for the now. So that really goes against everything they've done so far in the transfer window, unless, of course, that transfers are taken out of Rafa Benitez's hand and done above his head, which obviously I don't know. But all the reports are all suggesting that they do want Pep Guardiola. Now, why would Pep Guardiola go to Chelsea? Well, they've just won the Premier League title, so that's a big... No, not the Premier League, sorry. They've just won the Champions League title and can potentially win the Premier League title and other trophies this season, so a successful club. Big club in London, big club in England, in Europe, clearly. So, big pull, obviously. London, nice area of London, so good place to live. So that's why he might go there. Lots of good young players as well. However, Guardiola is in demand from the likes of Bayern Munich, because their manager is old and is going to retire realistically or whatever at the end of the season, so they want him to replace him. Both the Milans want him, from what I've heard. And also another names to put in there is, what happens if Alex Ferguson retires at the end of the season? Just say it happens. What happens if Arsene Wenger calls it a day with Arsenal? Both Arsenal and Manchester United will want Guardiola. No doubt about it, they will want him. So lots of competition, lots of options for Guardiola to go to. So realistically, Rafa Benitez may end up staying at Chelsea, because Guardiola may say, no thank you, I don't want to go to a club where managers get sacked in less than a season. That's not for me. I like one-year contracts and I like to be in control of my own future, not the owner saying you're sacked after 6 months. So Guardiola may realistically say no thank you to that. Plus also these other clubs have nicer stadiums, bigger stadiums than Chelsea. Nicer facilities, i.e. the Emirates Stadium and the Allianz Arena, nicer venue. So if that's a factor in his decision, they're ahead of Chelsea in the pecking order, I'd argue. But after hammering Abramovich almost in this video, you got to bear in mind that it is his toy. He bought Chelsea, he spends the money, he pays the wages, it is his toy effectively, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. And nobody's really can argue with him, because if you're spending £90 million on transfers and you're funding it, which he is funding it, it's not the club generating the funds, it just isn't, it's him. So if you're spending that kind of money, yeah, if you want to sack the manager, that's up to you. You can do whatever the hell you want. And if you've spent £90 million in the summer and your team just got beaten by Juventus 3-0 and are in third in the title and not top and winning it by miles, yeah, you probably are going to be a little bit pissed off, because you want long-term and short-term success because you've spent so much money. So it's his toy; he can do whatever the hell he wants. Is the point, really? And really, no one's there to argue with him, to be honest. But then again, Chelsea do have to fit in with the financial fair play, and sacking managers all the time costs money. But it's not just the compensation fee and paying off and all that rubbish you've got to deal with. It's not the signing of new contracts. That's not what's going to really screw Chelsea over, or is screwing Chelsea over. It's because if you keep changing managers, each manager wants their own players. Now, you've just allowed Roberto Di Matteo to build an entire squad, effectively, of his own players. So now you've just ripped him away from those players and put someone completely new in. A manager who didn't sign Eden Hazard, didn't sign Oscar, didn't sign Victor Moses, etc., etc. Didn't sign them. He may not want these players as in his team. So therefore, he will look to move them on or keep them and sign his own players, which is going to cost even more money. And they may be older players, as I said earlier in the video. So again, that's just going to cost Chelsea more money, and that's just going to harm them with the financial fair play. So if Abramovich really does have any aspirations to win the Champions League again, he may not even be in it if he keeps spending money on players. And obviously it had been reported that they're going after Falcao, even Luis Suarez in the summer. So, not in the summer, in January, and in the summer, of course. So lots of spending is to be done at Chelsea, and that's not fitting in with what UEFA want. And UEFA, being UEFA, will just screw them over and not let them in. So they're shooting themselves in the foot, really, if you think about it. But let me have your thoughts. What do you think? Do you think Di Matteo should have been sacked? 1. Do you think Abramovich is an idiot? 2. And 3. What do you think of Benitez is being his replacement? Do you think it's going to be a successful reign, both short term and long term? Do you think the short term? Do you think he's going to be successful with the club, i.e., winning the Premier League title and the other cups? Or do you think long term he's going to ruin and not be so successful with the club by his signings, buying older players, etc.? Do you reckon that's going to harm the team in the future and, of course, affect them with the financial fair play? So leave me your comments on that. Follow me on Twitter. I'll put my Twitter in the description, so follow me on that. You'll get all my thoughts as the games are going on, as I tweet about games all the time. So follow me on that, and I will see you guys next time.